Good morning. Today I'm going to discuss how three influential medias, American Psycho, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Future's Lowlife, reflect and perpetuate toxic masculinity in our world today. The research question that I will be exploring is if media representations of masculinity directly influence societal perceptions of male behavior negatively by normalizing these harmful traits. I believe that through rhetoric, style, and audience reception, these works often blur the line between critique and admiration. While some critics may argue that these works are mere artistic expressions, I contend that their impact on societal norms, particularly men behavior, is significant and deserving of analysis. So let's start off with the definition of toxic masculinity to get a clear idea of what exactly this research question is going to refer to. Well, the American magazine Health defines toxic masculinity as a type of hypermasculinity that causes aggression, self-importance, dominance, and a lack of consideration for anyone else's feelings and needs. The American Psychological Association states that there is a large body of literature that has linked endorsement and promotion of misogynistic and homophobic attitudes with scores on measures of masculinity ideology and adherence to masculine gender role conformity. So here, let me make it red. So, in American Psycho, Mary Herron's American Psycho, which premiered in 2000, the film is meant to critique hypermasculine materialism, which is unchecked and the capitalism through the portrayal of Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. So the character of Patrick Bateman was meant to reflect harmful traits in society, such as emotional detachment, dominance, and materialism, framing them as aspirational rather than condemnable. While the film critiques these traits by exposing their destructiveness, its polished aesthetic, and satirical tone, these blur the lines between critique and glamorization. So the camera angles that focus on Bateman's luxurious lifestyle, his sharp suits, his high-end apartment, his pristine skincare routine and morning routine, this mirrors societal ideals of male success rooted in material wealth and appearances. These visual choices made by Herron reinforce the idea that masculinity is tied to external markers of status. Simultaneously, Bateman's confession, I am simply not there, delivered in a disturbingly calm tone, underscores his emotional void and critiques the hollowness of hypermasculine ideals. However, the stylized depiction of violence and Bateman's composed demeanor risk overshadowing the critique. The film's dark humor and aesthetic detachment make Bateman a compelling figure despite his monstrous and evil actions. This explains that this misinterpretation transforms Bateman from a satirical critique into a role model for toxic masculinity. The critique becomes more explicit in the film's violence as well. Bateman's actions are paired with upbeat music like Huey Lewis's Hip to Be Square, creating a disturbing contrast to what is meant to be portrayed and what the director is portraying. This combination, as film scholar Keith Booker notes in Postmodern Film Noir, critiques how society overlooks men's destructive behaviors if they appear successful on surface level. So the duality of critique and glamorization in American Psycho complicates the audience's ability to fully reject these toxic behaviors. And this perpetuates the acceptance of the character Patrick Bateman, who is a role to toxic masculinity. So let's move on to The Wolf of Wall Street. And in Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, which was produced in 2013, tells the story of Jordan Belfort, whose hedonistic rise and fall encapsulates the toxic excess of Wall Street culture. So this portrayal reflects societal perceptions of male behavior negatively by normalizing harmful traits such as greed, emotional detachment, and dominance through its aesthetic choices and narrative framing. While The Wolf of Wall Street critiques Belfort's moral corruption, the film's stylistic elements, such as its energetic music and charismatic delivery of Belfort's speech, create a seductive portrayal of his hedonistic lifestyle. For instance, the use of Kanye West's Black Skinhead song during rapid montage sequences amplifies the adrenaline-fueled excitement of Belfort's escapades. These sequences, with their vibrant color palettes and upbeat rhythm, mimic the sensory highs associated with wealth and excess. Mixing sought-out materials that everyone wants and personality traits with the corruptness of Belfort makes it ambiguous enough to allow audience to view him as aspirational. When Belfort declares, "I choose rich every time," his confidence and audacity overshadow the immorality of his statement. Delivered with charm, this line is framed to elicit both laughter and admiration, making it easy for viewers to overlook the destructive consequences of his greed. Sociologists such as Tim Edwards in Cultures of Masculinity explains that portrayals like this perpetuate the belief that success is defined by wealth and control over others, which are two pillars of toxic masculinity. By presenting Belfort's rise as thrilling and his downfall as less impactful, the film inadvertently glorifies his detrimental traits, which at the end him up in prison. So this normalization of harmful traits perpetuates toxic masculinity again by suggesting that such behaviors are not only acceptable but desirable. It mirrors broader societal narratives that reward male audacity and ambition, often at the expense of accountability and ethical considerations. In doing so, The Wolf of Wall Street exemplifies how the media can subtly endorse problematic ideas, contributing to the replication of these behaviors in real-world male culture. And for our last piece of media, Future's song Low Life, which was made in 2016 and produced to the public, featuring The Weeknd, explores themes of indulgence, nihilism, and self-destruction. Its lyrics like "I'm reppin' for the low life" glorify reckless behavior as a badge of honor. So this song explores themes greater than self-destruction as well. It reflects societal perceptions of male behavior by normalizing harmful traits like substance abuse and recklessness, presenting them as aspirational. This song's lyrics, such as "I'm reppin' for the low life" again, and "I got the devil in my cup," glorify self-destruction as an intrinsic part of identity, portraying indulgence as marks of authenticity and masculinity, which is wrong. These themes are amplified by the song's formal elements, including its hypnotic beat and layered production, which create an alluring atmosphere that mirrors the intoxication and hedonism described in the lyrics. So critics like Trisha Rose situates this within a broader trend in hip-hop that valorizes destructive masculinity, where strength and resilience are expressed through recklessness and detachment. While some argue, such as the Revolt magazine suggests, that Future's music simply reflects his lived experiences and in no shape or form should it be emulated, but the line between critique and celebration is often too blurred for audiences to understand what should be emulated and what shouldn't, especially young and susceptible audiences. So Future's delivery, which blends vulnerability with bravado, complicates audiences' interpretation, leading some young men to copy the behaviors that they see and rather than critique them. So this glamorization perpetuates a toxic cultural narrative that equates masculinity with excess, self-destruction, and emotional detachment, influencing societal norms and individual behaviors in harmful ways. In Tough Guys 2, Jackson Katz explains that media teaches men to see emotional detachment, dominance, and material success as a core of masculinity. A 2017 study in the Journal of Men and Masculinities found that exposure to the hypomasculine media increases aggression and emotional suppression in young men. So what does this mean? What's the broader context and influence that this will have in our society? Well, across all these works, the line between satire and glorification is so blurred. Research by cultural theorists like Jackson Katz highlights how media representations of toxic masculinity influence male behavior, fostering traits like emotional suppression, dominance, and once again, materialism. So, for instance, American Psycho has inspired internet memes that celebrate Bateman's aesthetic rather than critique his psychopathy. And similarly, in The Wolf of Wall Street, there's a touchstone for hustler culture, which quotes the Belfort frequently co-opted by other social influencers. Anger and violence are acceptable emotions for men because history has embedded this idea that it is necessary for growth and progress. This translates into films, TV shows, and becomes part of the hero archetype. These heroes, which are meant to represent the best of society, thus impact the standards of masculinity in the real world. And this is from Trey Alston, who discusses the truth behind toxic masculinity in rap culture. So all these works demonstrate that artistic critiques, which can unintentionally perpetuate the very issues they seek to address. Their formal qualities, whether cinematic framing, musical composition, or rhetoric style, enhance their appeal for young susceptible men while complicating their moral critique. The seductive allure of toxic masculinity in these pieces reveals a tension they reflect, societal norms while also shaping them. The duality is what makes their impact so pervasive and worth examining. To conclude, American Psycho, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Lowlife are more than entertainment pieces. They are cultural mirrors and influencers. Their ability to critique while glamorizing speaks to the complexity of the media's role in society. By understanding these works' formal qualities, audience reception, and broader cultural impact, we can critically assess the messages they send and their influence in male identity today. Thank you for listening.